Starting live video. Hey, how are you? Good evening. It is Wednesday, January 23rd. It's sometime in the PM, late afternoon, early PM. Just depends on where you are in the world. I keep looking. I need to look over here. There we go. How are you? How's it going? So, welcome. It's Dave. I was going to do a video earlier, or I was going to do a video, not earlier. I was going to do a video today, record one. But my partner in crime, he's a little under the weather, and I'll leave that alone. Cannot give away too much more information other than that. So I said, you know what? I'm still all amped up, ready to go, do a video. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't have to be a special occasion. It just has to be an occasion, and it's an occasion. So with that being said, I fired up the old iPhone, and I keep looking the wrong way. I need to look over here. I got to put like a little red dot. And said, you know what? Let's just talk about stuff. So stuff in general, no holes barred, nothing by the wayside. Everything is up for grabs. It's a catch-all, open what do we call it? What is that subject in what's the name? Now I don't even know the name. Jeopardy. There we go. That subject. Potpourri, I guess is what it's kind of a play on potpourri, where it's kind of a hodgepodge of whatever random subjects they end up pulling out. That's what I want to talk about. So again, nothing special, no great announcements. If you've been following along, you know I'm finishing up my my next historical fiction, which is that's kind of good news. It's been overdue to get that all taken care of. I'll get that all done. The podcast, that might be the thing to do, is figure out how we can turn off phone calls while we're live streaming. Yes, we just go straight to Wi-Fi and remove the phone. So we go to airplane mode, Wi-Fi. Never mind, solve my own problem. See what happens when we just have no subject to talk about. So that being said, let's see, what do we want? Oh yeah, here we go. Here's something. So apparently there are some. There's a Super Bowl going to happen here in a couple of weekends. Not this coming weekend, but the next weekend. Apparently, I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on it. I could be wrong. As far as a Super Bowl happening, not about the dates. The dates are set. It's the actual event. No, it's going to happen. And apparently, there's last weekend was a championship game, and there was 2 championship games because it works its way up. 2 conferences work their way up to get the best of each one, and then who goes in. Okay, so that being said, all right, so it seems that the New Orleans Saints lost. They lost to the Los Angeles Rams, and rightly so, because they gave up the lead. But apparently they're trying to figure out how they're going, the fans, the season ticket holders are trying to figure out how they're going to sue the NFL and for allowing a play that didn't get counted as a penalty, how it's going to, well, it affected them mental anguish, and it brought them lack of joy and entertainment, and you know, I get it. You're unhappy fans, but again, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, and that's just the way life is. And I understand that. But what's not understood is that these fans are crying foul, and they're saying no, that they were cheated out of this, and there should have been a penalty call on this helmet-to-helmet situation, the whole 9 yards. But yet, this is the New Orleans Saints we're talking about, and they themselves quickly forget. Not so long ago, there was that whole what was it called, where they were targeting players and they were trying to hurt them for money. And then there was the NFC Championship game against the Minnesota Vikings, back when just as Brett Favre was, remember that? He was getting ready to retire, leave the NFL altogether, and he left Green Bay, went over to roundabout kind of way, ended up in Minnesota. He took them all the way to the playoffs, and then lost in New Orleans. So, what was going on there is the Saints were targeting and trying to physically hurt Brett Favre. And because, again, that's how threatened they felt. But nobody stops to look at that. I mean, that was blatant. That was overt. There was no 2 ways around it. They knew what was going on. And, it's that 2 sides of every coin. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So I don't think they're going to get very far. But again, it's like before you start throwing those stones, see where I'm going with that? Before you start throwing those stones, yeah, make sure you're not in a glass house. Maybe in a house made of stone. That's why I live in a brick house. But no, again, it's that whole glass house mentality, that whole glass house way of being and living, and understanding that, hey, no one is innocent. Everyone has their own things. But on a call, why is such or a lack of a call, why is that such a problem that you can't understand that sometimes things just don't go their way? That not everybody can see everything all at one time. So, something to think about there. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? And, I need to do this a little bit more often just to get my creativity, mind flow going, because sometimes it gets a little like stagnant, and then it's like, oh, I'll do it, and I don't do a video, and here I am. Oh, yeah, nothing. Okay. Anyway, next thing I want to talk about, that whole situation last weekend in Washington, D.C., the Native American, the high school students, the Native American Vietnam veteran, the high school students, they were there for one other thing, and then it turned out that it'd be something else, and something bigger was going on, and it wasn't what we all thought it was because of that narrow perspective of the box that we are in when we do video, when we're recording things. So we don't get to see everything that's outside the box. You don't get to see me doing anything. But we need to remember that there are things out there, bigger, more important, more behind the scenes. And I'm not saying that wasn't an important situation. It was an important moment in questioning what we believe, questioning what we see, questioning ourselves and where we stand in this. See, I didn't like it initially, what was going on, because again, that kid was just standing there, the elder was standing there, and they were all face to face, and it's like, well, at some point, somebody had to walk to that point to get together, so they're standing there face to face. It wasn't just like they magically appeared and poof, there they are. No, it wasn't like that. But what it was is somebody had to walk there, somebody had to walk the other direction, and they got to that point in time when they're facing each other. So whatever brought them there, whatever did it there, I understand that there was more circumstances. I now see it. So I didn't comment at the time. I just kind of soaked it in, and then when it started coming out, he was a Vietnam veteran, and then this, and then I started getting a little steamy. As a veteran, I started getting a little steamy, but then again, as a dad, I started getting steamy because, again, who raised this kid to not let this older gentleman just step aside? Let the kid step aside. Isn't that what we're taught to do? Isn't that what ideally parents are supposed to teach? Respect your elders. Doesn't matter what they're doing, what they stand for, what's going on. Obviously, if they're directly impacting your life at that direct moment, directly impacting your life, then by all means do what you got to do. But again, if this gentleman wanted to go and do what he was doing up on the steps of the memorial there, then why did the younger not let the elder through? Again, so at the end of the day, I understand there was other things going on, but also what was going on is here was not necessarily a sign of, well, it was just a sign of, this, it was a sign of disrespect in the sense that we're not talking about the hat versus the Native American. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the young kid not stepping aside and letting the older man go on through. Now, if he had made that move and he did step aside, which we didn't see, and the elder decided he wanted to stand there, well, then that's on him. That's on him. And it's like I said earlier about this Vietnam veteran situation. It's slowly coming out that he might have been in the military, but probably not in Vietnam, because as according to a couple of people, because again I follow some veteran sites and veteran groups, and they quickly jumped on it. If he's this old and he was in Vietnam as a Marine, he would have had to have been at least 16 years of age as they were pulling out. Now again, soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, they all get in. They can get in. There's waivers. They can get in at a younger age. And we know through history there have been some that have lied to get in to serve, and then some other thing happens, and that's how they get found out. So that being the case, he still would have been 16. but they were pulling out troops when he was 16. They were pulling out Marines. Now, of course, there were embassy guards, there were embassy personnel, liaison personnel there. But what this gentleman said that he did, what he did, again, doesn't jive because it doesn't exist. That job does not exist. The job he said he did fell under 2 branches, one from each branch of the job. The job was a 2-word job, what he did, and each word belongs to one branch. And from what I'm gathering, he at one point in one interview said he was a recon ranger. Okay, recon ranger. 1, reconnaissance. That's Marines. They have recon units. Ranger, that's the United States Army Rangers. Look it up. There are no Marine Corps Rangers. Never have been, never will be. Okay, so he said he was a recon ranger. Now, okay, now the Army does have a reconnaissance, or had a reconnaissance unit. It was the LRRPs, Long Range Reconnaissance Patrols. Those individuals, but again, not recon rangers. That's 2 totally different things. That's like saying, well, that's not like saying. Again, it's what it's saying is, he's not, he might have twisted things around a little bit, or just kind of adjusted to, amp himself up, boost himself up. And we get that. But again, when steel's on target, when it's time to stand up, when it's time to put up or shut up, you just can't go that extra mile. You have to go as far as you've gone, and you have to say this is the real deal. So that being the case, what do? Where does the respect end? Where does the respect begin? And it just kind of blurs. It just goes into this gray area. It's dark, it's light, and there's this gray area. And unfortunately, it's not the magic hour. It's not when the sun is rising and the light first comes in. No, it's not magic hour. It's this gray area, just like, well, it's still the kids should have stepped aside, because, again, that's what kids are supposed to be taught, and well, ideally by the parents. And, again, the gentleman, if he had gone in there with an agenda, then that's on him. And I'm looking at both sides, and I didn't say anything at first. I was going to just come out foul and just be angry. But again, sometimes we need to step back, take a look at what's going on, take a look, wait for the big picture to develop. Excuse me. Because you saw there were more cameras running around there. There were more kids holding up cameras, more people there with video cameras. And so you started actually seeing what was going on. So who was egging who on? Who was calling who names? Who was doing what? Who was antagonizing and who was not? So, something to think about. Let's look at the big picture before we dive in and go for the jugular. Let's see, what else have we got? Change. Change is all around us. I can't stop talking about change. I can't stop stressing about change. And the reason I can't is because no matter how hard we try, we can't stop it. No matter what we do, no matter what we say, we can't stop change from happening. Change is going to happen. And the sooner we accept that fact, the sooner we can put change on our side. Sure, it might not be something we want to hear, might not be something we want to do, but I guarantee you it's going to happen no matter what. Change is coming. And change will be here, and change won't leave, because that's the only thing that's constant. Change is constant. And it's here to stay. It doesn't matter what it is. No, sure, we can sometimes see the writing on the wall and see, hey, this change is coming. This change is going to be on its way. We can see it coming. But what exactly is that change? Sometimes we don't know until it's all said and done. Until the question has been answered. Until there's no more questions behind that change. Now we know with certainty, accuracy, and we now have to deal with that change. But change is bad. No, change is not always bad. Change is there to make you grow. Change is there to say, hey, you got this? You sure you got this? Change is there to say, hey, I don't think you got this. I think you need to work on it just a little bit more. But it's those that refuse, those that expect it to be handed to them, those that just don't want to accept that change is actually happening to everybody, that are going to be on the short end of the stick. See, when it comes to change, it doesn't pick and choose. Change just doesn't come. It affects everyone. It's like throw a stone in a pond, you get that ripple effect and it goes out. It affects the entire pond. No matter where you throw the stone in the pond, it will affect the entire pond. That's just the way it is. That's the way life is. That's the way change is. It's going to affect everybody. So just because you think, oh, well, this is bad for me, or oh, poor woe is me, or nobody pays attention, and nobody believes me, or I don't need to answer those questions, well, guess what? Look at what happens. Look at the fallout behind all of that. Change is here to stay. Change is definitely here to stay. So with that being said, let's I'm going to wrap this up. Have a great evening. I've chatted long enough. We've talked about stuff long enough, and that'll teach my brother to be under the weather. But for the meantime, and in the meantime, until I come back, and we'll do it again. We'll do it again soon. I need to get again in front of that camera, because that's just the way things are. Change is here to stay, and if we're not rolling with the punches, and if we're not changing for change, then why bother? Why bother? Then you'll just be in line with everybody that's saying, oh, poor woe is me, why is bad stuff happen to me? Again, I don't want to be that person. So that's why. So, listen, anytime, leave a message, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think, or should I bring up another topic? Any questions you might have, anything that's going on in your life that you kind of want, just sound off or say something, or say, hey, Dave, what do you think of this? Let me know. Put it down here in the comment section. I'll be back. We'll do this again soon. And until then, listen, have a great rest. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Dave out.